The last time the NOVAR Verizon Cup Series hit the track, Shane Clark III won his first career NOVAR Verizon Cup Series race after passing Evan Brooks on the final lap of the actual race as the race was forced into overtime. We have a couple of storylines here. First is Walter Green is the near unanimous favorite to win this race, and everybody will project that he will win his fourth straight race here. Green won the past 3 events, ranging from 2011 to 2013. Walter Green had dominated last year's event, pretty much in fashion, leading 92 out of the 100 laps there was in this race. The last time a driver has won at least 3 straight on the same track was back between 1991 and 1993, where Ken Ross won at Rockingham. His bid for 4th straight was done after he finished 14th in the 1994 race at Rockingham. As our next storyline is that Jay Anonori was suspended due to her actions during the Darlington qualifying race, in which she caused 2 separate wrecks within a quarter lap. As a result of this, Roger Cooper will take over the 01 just for this race, and will be making his NOVAR Verizon Cup Series debut since the 01 is already locked into the points. A third storyline that could be potential and could be one of the startups for the 2015 silly season is that a potential rotating championship venue has been a consideration now. Since 2012, the season finale has been at Columbia Speedway, and later on this year, it will be the second 400-mile qualifying, actually championship race, as there has been potentials of 2 things happening. The first is based off the college football playoff system, is that Columbia, KC, Camden, Dennisville, and Darlington would rotate in its finale, and each track will be hosting the finale once every 5 years. The second one is also like what the NAFL World Championship, as the venue is pre-selected prior to the season actually coming up, as in 1 year Daytona may be the season finale, and then the following year Edmonton will be, and then after that Bristol or Boston will follow up. This has sparked a lot of controversy, and a lot of drivers weren't happy about it. Notable drivers were Chadlow Blake, Todd Piper, and Cody White. All 3 had made statements regarding about this, as Chadlow Blake saying that we had this season finale mess since like 2004. So hopefully that story doesn't come true for the drivers, as now we'll head to Kendall Johnson for the race. Thank you, Jerry. The start of the race, Casey Littinger gets a pretty good start over to the 31 of Ronald Portland. Scott Johnson does likewise. Blake Battagliano, didn't really get a good start. Eddie Johnson's making the move under the 50 of Blake Battagliano, and pretty much that entire outside line didn't really get to go, as Ronald Portland just had a horrendous start. Meanwhile, Casey Littinger and Scott Johnson have gotten away. There's the pack starting to scramble, as looks like Portland will remain in the 3rd spot, as Scott Johnson of the 58, he will now try to challenge for the lead. He goes to the inside, as unlike in the past several years where the inside has been the preferred line, the outside will be the main line this year. A couple of cars already in the wall, as there you see Casey Littinger. He's about to exit as the race leader. Now Ronald Portland is going to challenge the 58 of Scott Johnson. We would have a first caution happen on lap 3. The 2 drivers who ended up blowing their wins away will now be involved in the first caution of the day. Todd Piper and Evan Brooks. The 95 spins around. Todd Piper gets collected. Walter Youthen in the 8 is also collected as a result of this, as we'll be back on the restart. On the restart, lap number 7, which happened on lap number 7, Scott Johnson is the leader, Eddie John 2nd, Justin Klink 3rd, Power Youthen 4th, Blake Battagliano 5th. As here they come into turn number 1. We had a cycle of pit stops, as Littinger, I believe, fell back. He didn't really have this good stop, as the 55 of Eddie Johnson is going to go to the inside. Clinkston is going to hang in the middle, and the 3 Mobile One racing cars are about to make the pass on Clinkston, and this hangs on as Johnson will be run up high. Mobile One Racing will have cars 1 through 4, as Chris Clark, the other car, ended up failing to qualify for this race. However, that train will not continue. Scott Johnson completely falls back to the pack as the race continues on. This race is also the first start of the year for Brian Dawson. Dawson has had just a miserable year. He hasn't been doing pretty well. Right now he's running at about 9th spot, which that's a pretty good debut for the 64 Brian Dawson, as Dawson has struggled pretty much the entire season. He hasn't really gotten any luck, as it was kind of the last couple of races have been a make it or break it, or else his contract will be done. Brandon Green is making his first start since Edmonton, where he led the points. He has fallen to 8th, and he's not doing any justice right now as he's running about midfield and about to be passed by Cody White in the 22. However, Green is going to get to the inside and will actually to the outside, excuse me, and will get by the 22. And then, meanwhile, a little bit behind him, Walter Green, the three-time defending winner of this race, is running midfield. So anybody that was expecting Walter Green to be running up front, well, it's not happening, as the 39's handling wasn't really there the entire race, and I believe Green was just pretty much, he was actually struggling, I believe, for the entire race, as I think the handling was never really there. But meanwhile, back up front, Chandler Blake has roared his way up to the front. Shane Harden has gotten by Eddie Johns for second. Kyra Ethan and Casey Lester are battling for third and fourth, as Lester failed to qualify for Darlington as a result of the Jay Ananori shenanigans. Luckily, Ananori is not in this race, as the 01 of Roger Cooper was in the car for the 01 of Ease Racing. As Ease Racing has had a semi-decent year. They had Chris Bell lead the most laps at Dentonville, but his engine blew up and he hasn't really done anything since. But we would have pit stops on lap number 37, lap number 35, excuse me, as the 15 of Chandler Blake and Shane Harden, the two leaders, Casey Lester and Kyra Euthan, they would stay out. However, they would hit the next lap with the 12 of Lester leading Kyra Euthan into the pits. And then the following lap, on lap 37, we would have a caution as Cody White tries to enter the pits, but then gets the 73 of Zane Truex, and then gets Brian Dawson, the 64 spins, gets hit by the 35 of Tony Wetter, and it hits hard by the 48 of CJ Gordon. Roger Cooper, the 01, is also in there. Walter Euthan is also in there. So let's take a look from Brian Dawson's perspective. The 73 comes up the track, gets to the 64. He gets hit once by the 35, and then takes a hard shot from the back end of the 42. The 48 of CJ Gordon, Walter Green, and Shane Bliss were also collected in that wreck. Restart happening lap 41. Kyra Euthan is the race leader. Justin Klingston second. Damon Scott third. As Euthan gets away from the lap car of Shane Truex. I think that is Jonathan Winslow is also right there in the 00. As Shane Harden is going to try to get under everybody. As this will actually result in Harden actually getting way to the bottom, and will force a three-wide situation. Klingston would hang on to the second spot, as Winslow will continue falling back, as looks like Damon Scott is hanging in there in that third spot. So it looks like the top three remain unchanged, although Damon Scott is now going to go and fight for second spot, as the 24 is right now stuck on the high line, as Damon Scott looks like he will get the second spot, and he's now going to try for the lead, which unfortunately he does not get. But meanwhile, this is how the race would eventually cycle out. Shane Harden, the 59, would lead the race. Casey Littinger second, Shane Nargan third, Jason Duke fourth, and Cody White is a little bit distance away from fifth spot. As the race would this race surprisingly would only have two cautions for the entire event, as the rest of the race will go green, which the 5 of Casey Littinger is also right there. Littinger actually had some pretty good luck. He actually finished, I believe, I think was it 5th at Darlington in that overtime race, where he's right now. He failed to qualify for a couple of races this year. Didn't really have any good luck at Chicago on the track that he was hoping to win the race. But now Nargan is going to try to get to the inside of the 5. Nargan's had some really good luck, but he's just not been there at the right time. Meanwhile, Shane Harden catches lap traffic of Eddie Johns, Logan Chin, and Shane Truex. Nargan in the 32 is going to try to get to the inside, as Casey Littinger, which lane will he pick? He will pick the middle, and that's not really going to work, as Littinger almost tries to make it a three-wide situation, and Harden will run out the track, and as a result, Shane Nargan will take the lead. And Casey Littinger in the 5 is now going to go for second spot, as Nargan in the 32 has led pretty much at least once per race every season, at every race so far. The lone exception being at Edmonton, where he crashed out early. Harden's now going to try to fight back for the lead, as looks like Chadley Blake in the 15 has also climbed his way up there, as we have Harden. Harden's going to try to make the move. Nargan runs the car out wide, and as a result, Harden is going to get to the lead. So even with this race going caution-free, we still have some pretty good racing going on there, as Littinger will get to second spot. Our second and final green flag pit stops would happen about 25 laps to go, as Harden, Blake, and Nargan would all pit around with 25 laps to go. And here's how the and there's Cody White, as White would pit a little bit later. Luckily, he doesn't take anybody with them, as you see how this pit stops would end up cycling out. Shane Harden would have a 1 second gap over 32 of Shane Nargan. There's Nargan right there. And then Nargan would have an additional 1 second over Chandler Blake at the 15. As in the closing stages of the race, Chandler Blake would run down the 32 and would actually battle with Nargan to get that second spot, as Chandler Blake was not able to get the move there, and the 32 was able to hang on to the second spot. If these two teams had Nargan not had any of the issues he had in those previous races, he would have been at least a shot at the title. And now Chandler Blake is going to get to the inside and will have a shot to try to get under the 32 of Shane Nargan, and looks like he will successfully do that, as Blake is going to get under, and then with about a couple laps remaining, the 15 of Chandler Blake is going to get under the 59 of Shane Harden, and looks like Blake will take the lead. This with 7 laps to go, and basically the race for the win would come down between Shane Harden and Chandler Blake. Nargan would eventually fall back, as here we go. We're going to come with a couple laps remaining. Shane Harden has not had an attempt to try to take the win. The white flag is up now, as the 59 of Shane Harden, he's got one last chance to try to take the win. Harden's gonna try to go to the inside. The 15 has the preferred line, and out of turn 2, Harden's will not be able to get anything done. And now down the backstretch for the final time, Chandler Blake and Shane Harden. He has one more chance. Doesn't look like Harden has the run. And Chandler Blake, for the first time since 2010, unless something blows up within this final stretch, Chandler Blake will win 2 races for the season for the first time since 2010. So Chandler Blake is the winner of this race, with Shane Harden coming in second. Harden couldn't do anything on the last lap. He tried everything he could, but the racing lines weren't really there. So as a result, Harden will finish second. He led a race high 52 laps, but it wasn't enough for a victory. Shane Nargan gets third. He fell back after he was passed by Blake, and the handling just pretty much just went away. Casey Littinger finishes fourth. He got by Scott Johnson in the closing stages of the race. The aforementioned Scott Johnson finishes fifth. Jason Duke comes back from the 40th starting spot. He finishes sixth in the number 66 eBay Ford. Duke failed to qualify for Darlington after he was taken out by Jaya Honore, but luckily was able to recover to finish 6th spot. Cody White gets 7th spot, his second straight top 10 finish. Jake Kierland gets 8th in the running order. A pretty good finish for the 76. I believe this is his, if I'm not mistaken, his 3rd top 10 in the last 4 races. Justin Klinkson finally gets back on track with the season, finishing 9th. And rounding out the top 10 is Walter Youthen in car number 8. So now we take a look at our point standings. Chandler Blake is our 6th different points leader in 6 different races. This is a NOVAR first. He has an 18-point lead over Cody White, which is the largest points lead of the season. As I mentioned, Cody White is in 2nd in points. The 20 of Mark Mungillo is in 3rd spot. He gained 1 spot back. I'm not sure where he finished, but I believe he finished in the top 15. Keith Hales in the 27 loses a spot. He is in 4th. Jake Kierland is in 5th spot in the number 76. He is 24 points back of the leader. Todd Piper loses the points lead after his car mightily struggled the entire race. Shane Clark III is continuing to climb back up. He is right now in the 7th spot in the points in car number 98. And then Luke Warren is in the 8th spot in the number 14. So now we take a look at 9 through 15. Brandon Green is in 9th in points. I don't really think he did anything in this race, and he loses a spot, and his points deficit is now at 36 points. Casey Lester gets back into the top 10 after failing to qualify for Darlington in the number 12. Shane Harden gets 11th. He is 41 points back from the leader. Casey Uto is in 12th, 46 points back, and 13th is Shane Nargan in car number 32. Nargan, had he had not those bad finishes, he would have been around 3rd or 4th in the points had the bad finishes earlier in the season not really happened. but he is in 13th as a result of those 4 finishes. Blake Battagliana is in 14th with 50 points back, and he is tied up with Jamie Scott in car number 9, who did a pretty good job in his return. Next week's race will be at the Blue Ridge Speedway in Alberta.